Hello and welcome everyone to the Solo Multimedia Podcast where I give you my unfiltered take straight off the cuff. And today I am going to be talking about the new Spider-Man movie, or I guess it's not really that new anymore, but the new one, No Way Home. So this has been out for a while. It's the third in the MCU Spider-Man kind of like back catalogue, I guess you could say. The other two films I wasn't like huge on. I remember enjoying Homecoming more the first time I watched it, but when I watched it again, it was like at Christmas and we just chucked it on to have something to chuck on. I enjoyed it less because I definitely feel like all the MCU films are very formulated, very cookie cutter, and on the first watch of Homecoming, from what I remember, I enjoyed the light-hearted tone and the slightly more colourful vibe, but now that every MCU film is kind of taking that approach, I guess, I realise that actually Homecoming is, outside of that, quite an average film, and even that element of it is, like, now done to death, so it stood out less and was just not... I don't know, the individual jokes didn't land as strongly now that it's kind of more of a style, I guess. Like, I didn't feel like the writing was particularly clever or anything like that. It was just a very, very average film. I wouldn't call it terrible or anything like that. And then the one after it was maybe slightly better, but I roughly felt the same. I obviously heard a lot about this latest film because of all the memes surrounding him. I tried to stay as spoiler free as possible, but I mean, even before we saw the first trailer, there was already speculation about what they were going to do about bringing the old villains in and all that kind of stuff. So a lot was already out. And I'm sure everyone that's found this video has already listened to a ton of people's opinions. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have a ton of new stuff to say. I overall found it to be a very enjoyable film. It was unbelievably fan servicey. Like, my God. So for the like, I don't know, one person that manages to find this video and has no idea what this film's about. So, like I said, it's the third film in the trilogy. You've got Spider-Man in the same world as the Avengers. In the first one, he's kind of like this kid trying to impress Iron Man, essentially, so he can try and become an Avenger and has character growth. In the second one, he finds himself in kind of like a slightly more alien situation where he doesn't have access to his suit. He's not at home. He's trying to just chill out and be on holiday, essentially. But he can't because he is Spider-Man and gets approached by Nick Fury and all that stuff. And in this third one, he's at the end of the last one, basically everyone suddenly finds out he's Peter Parker because the villain announces it. And I guess I can't remember exactly how, but that has like some form of proof, I suppose. So everybody knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man at the start of this film, and he essentially goes to Doctor Strange to cast a spell to make everybody forget that he is Spider-Man because it's now affecting him and his friends as well. So they can't get into like colleges they want and stuff like that. And as a result of Doctor Strange meddling, there's a bunch of, multiverse shenanigans, and we get... I mean, the whole thing is basically a device to get all of the old actors from all the other universes into this one. So you have, Willem Dafoe's Goblin, you have Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 from the Sam Raimi universe. I don't know who the actor is, I'm very sorry. You've got, like, Sandman as well from the third one. You've got both the Amazing Spider-Man villains, which were the giant lizard dude, and Electro, who was played by Jamie Foxx. And they all just collide in this world. Basically what happens is Strange is casting the spell, then Peter tries to change it a couple times midway, and, causes the spell to go haywire, and it pulls in a bunch of people from various universes. The big spoiler, so if you haven't seen this film and you care about it, this is probably where you should stop listening, because everything before this point you've probably already knew. But the big spoiler they really seemed to hide was basically the presence of the previous two Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, both make an appearance in this film. And first things first, I just want to say, like I said, I enjoyed this film quite a lot. It was very fan servicey. There were loads of memes and gags and all sorts of stupid shit all over the place. One of my favourite moments was when they were talking about their web shooters, and then Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland were both like, "Oh yeah, that's the web shooter for my fluid." And then Tobey Maguire's like, "What do you mean web shooters?" He demonstrates he can just shoot out of his wrist, and they're both like blown away by it. All that shit was like really funny, really cute for me. I thought it was very well done, especially as someone who is I'm very jaded when it comes to superhero movies at this point. This is why I've waited so long to watch this film. I didn't want to pay for it while it was in cinemas, because I don't want to vote with my wallet to say, yes, I want more superhero movies, please. I was sick of them very early on, and I'm definitely at a point now where I am done with the whole trend. I'll watch the ones I'm interested in, way after release, but that's about it. But yeah, as someone who isn't necessarily like the biggest Marvel fan, isn't as into superheroes as other people, I still found the fan service to be, it had a very playful tone. It was very kind of like self-aware for the most part, with one like glaring exception. And they just had a ton of fun with it. It seemed like everyone on the project really understood what the fans wanted. I mean, even the plot, like the whole idea of essentially. So what happens is Tom Holland discovers after everyone's come in that sending them back would kill them because they all. Like at the end of each of the movies they were all in, they are on the verge of death. So Doc Ock falls into his like giant sun machine. Green Goblin stabbed himself. I don't know how Green Goblin even ended up here. Everyone thought he was dead, even the people from that universe. So fuck knows, but whatever. And yeah, so basically, Spider-Man essentially says, "I want to try and cure these people and give them a second chance before sending them back to their death." Which I don't know why curing them would help, but I mean, there's a lot of just really dumb plot holes in this film, so let's just not worry about that. The whole thing is just an excuse to have a romp, essentially. But yeah, so the plot is, Peter Parker, Tom Holland is trying to, come up with all these cures for these villains, and then obviously that all goes wrong and has various consequences. There's a giant battle at the end. All the Spider-Men have, like, their little fun fan services bits. And yeah, the whole plot, just like I said, seems like it's having a lot of fun. There's tons of scenes having a ton of fun. One of the things that shocked me as well, and I kind of realised this halfway through the film, the filmmaking is definitely a lot more interesting in this film than it was in the previous two in this universe. So, for example, I remember seeing the shot where Peter Parker's sort of hit like a depressive low, and he's looking at this giant billboard that has the kind of like InfoWars style Daily Fix James Jonason talk head on it, and he's just standing on top of the building with all the rain coming down, dramatic lighting, and all of that stuff was incredibly well shot. And I just sat there and was like, that is an incredibly memorable scene, an incredibly memorable set of visuals that you just did not get from the other two movies in the MCU. So I'm really glad that small elements like that came through, but overall I would say the weakest parts of this film were definitely the moments where it still reminded me a bit too much of the MCU. Everything before the multiverse stuff happened, like all of the like running around and, worrying about college and, like here's Peter Parker, but everybody knows him and all of his classmates filming him and stuff like that. Like all of that stuff was ultra standard MCU, and it really did. Like, I was slightly worried I was going to end up kind of hating the film despite everybody seeming to love it, which was surprising to me because it seemed like the kind of thing I'm going to enjoy too. So all that stuff I could really take or leave. It's not never terrible, right? It's just very average. Maybe even, I guess, slightly predictable and slightly worse than average as a result. But yeah, the core of the film was incredibly fun. If you know these characters, you're going to have an absolute blast watching them, smash together like a bunch of action figures, and yeah, watching all the Spider-Men like tag team up and all that good stuff. So all that was really cool. Negatives pretty much boil down to the plot. It's really dumb. Doctor Strange essentially becomes one of the most irresponsible people I've ever seen on the planet at multiple points throughout this film. Instead of conversing with people, tries to like battle them into submission. Instead of having a chat about how the spell was going to go down, he just assumes how it was going to go down and then just starts casting it, I guess. Towards the end as well, like, there's basically what Peter has to do is he has to let Doctor Strange, because the whole multiverse is like collapsing in on itself, and then everything's about to like pile in. A bunch of characters from God knows where else are going to pile in, reality's collapsing, all that good stuff. Basically, he goes to Peter and is like, okay, I need to cast a spell to make everyone forget who you are, but you're going to essentially, it's going to be like you never existed. Like, you won't even, you'll be Spider-Man, but no one will have any clue who you are as Peter Parker, essentially. It'll be completely erased from everyone's memory. God knows why they had to do this to begin with, but whatever, that's just the logic of the film. And the first thing I said to my girlfriend who I was watching it with is, wait, wouldn't they still have all of, like, the data? Surely that, like, his friends and girlfriend could just, like, look at their phones and realize, oh, why do I have a bunch of images of this random guy? And then when he goes in the coffee shop, he could be like, okay, here's the situation, explain it all to them. Like, I don't understand why this was such a, I don't know, it felt very contrived and just really dumb. But, at the same time, I can't really hate on these elements of the film too hard, because ultimately it's all just, in service of a really, really fun set of action pieces, and stupid bits of character dialogue and stuff like that. So I really can't hate on the film too hard, and it does occasionally have an emotional beat that cuts through too, like right at the end where so the Green Goblin ends up killing this version of Peter's Aunt May. And he has a moment where he just straight up goes up to Willem Dafoe and is about to stab him with the Green Goblin hoverboard with the spikes, like how he impaled himself in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So it has a couple emotional moments that cut through like that as well. But I will say the one fan servicey thing that I thought was a little bit much was when it kind of ruins a dramatic moment, I guess, or what could have been a more dramatic moment. Goblin throws bombs and blows up Aunt May. After Aunt May is one of the ones who pushes for Peter to try and cure them and try and help them essentially not get killed when they get sent back to their own universes. Initially, Peter was just like, well, just send them back. It's not really my problem kind of thing. And, obviously his backfires and Green Goblin blows up and kills Aunt May. And then while she's laying there, she says, with great power comes great responsibility. Which, okay, sure, I get it. It's like that moment, I suppose you could say, his transformative moment. But, I don't know, man. It was just a bit too silly for how dramatic the scene was. I wish that scene had a little more self-awareness. I don't know how you could do it with Aunt May dying, I guess. But I'm sure there would be some way. Or honestly, maybe even just drop the line and, have it at another point or something. I have no idea. But, yeah, that did... I don't know. That wasn't the best bit of fan service. It did not feel it wasn't self-aware at all. And it kind of ruined the emotional impact of the scene, I guess. So yeah, that was kind of unfortunate, but it was a really minor gripe for what is otherwise a huge rompy film. I can't believe that we got more of Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. He was fucking incredible front to back. I just wish there was a bit more of him, honestly, if anything. Jamie Foxx was surprisingly good. I never saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I've seen clips of his Electro, and it doesn't seem like the most thrilling villain on the planet, so he seemed like he was a lot better in this film. Doc Ock also great, had lots of very funny moments. I loved the amount of angst all the villains displayed as well. There was that element of it really tickled me. So yeah, that was cool. The whole film overall, yeah, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're going to enjoy it. It's just a solid rompy film, for sure. I don't think it's an incredible film or anything. It's probably not one I'm going to remember in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years down the line. I'll probably it's good enough to rewatch, so I'll probably rewatch it at some point. But yeah, it was just a really, really fun film. It didn't overstay its welcome or anything. The pacing was good. All the villains were reasonably utilized with a couple exceptions here and there. Like I said, I wish there was a bit more Green Goblin. But other than that, yeah, everyone was fairly well utilized, I thought. Yeah, I guess that's the majority of my thoughts. I found, like I said, the plot is definitely dumb. It's very, very dumb, but that's kind of fine for what it is, I suppose. I want to say a couple things about Ned and MJ, but honestly, thinking about it, there just really isn't much. It's almost a good thing they weren't too in the film. I mean, some of the plot points and some of the emotional beats they hit on are decent, but just I don't know, they don't do a whole lot for me as characters. I feel like in Homecoming I actually preferred Ned, weirdly enough. I felt like he had more going for him in that film. In this film it was just kind of I don't know, he occasionally cast Doctor Strange spells and that was about it. There was a couple punchlines, a couple funny little gags here and there where he asked Tobey Maguire about Toby's best friend or something like that. I can't remember exactly what happens. And then Toby's because obviously it was, it was Willem Dafoe's son in that film, Harry. He was oh yeah, my best friend went mad and tried to kill me. And then Ned's obviously oh shit, this could happen to me. So he starts acting weird around Tom Holland. And it's, a pretty funny little gag, not incredible or anything, but a fun little bit. But other than that, there wasn't, I felt like both of those characters, I don't know, they just didn't do a whole heck of a lot for me. But like I said, all these are super nitpicky, minor things. Overall, stupid plot that played into ultra fan servicey sections throughout the whole film. And I'm not gonna lie, I even enjoyed some of the more cringy moments, like when Willem Dafoe says, I'm something of a scientist myself." It tickled me. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I'm too easily pleased. I don't know. But yeah, solid film. Go watch it. A lot of fun, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan. Cheers for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and hopefully I'll see you all around in the future. All right, peace out, everybody.